An incredible anthology from Bill Hayden, our second Poet Laureate of Norwalk. From his incredible workshop. So I'm going to be introducing Bill in just a moment, and then you will get to hear from him and from some of his amazing poets from the anthology. And I'll even be reading a few poems on behalf of one of the poets. It's going to be really beautiful. So stick around and make sure you grab snacks and drinks too, don't forget. Allow me to introduce the amazing Bill Hayden. A resident of Norwalk since 1970, Bill Hayden has been writing poems since his teens, as well as painting en plein air, and more recently, abstract works, and has enjoyed singing and playing guitar with his wife Brandy at coffee houses, at their church, and at their friends, nieces, and nephews' weddings for the past 56 years. Awesome, Bill. Let me not knock the mic over though, in my enthusiasm. Happy to have found these outlets for his creativity, and honored to have been chosen to serve as the Poet Laureate of Norwalk from April of 2019 to April of 2025. A heartfelt thanks to the Norwalk Public Library for their support in publishing the anthology. Thank you, library. Thank you, everyone. Representing some of the poets' work, the anthology, Poems from Fairfield County, Connecticut and Beyond, representing some of the poets' works who were attendees of the twice-monthly Norwalk Poetry Workshop during his tenure. Please welcome Bill Hayden, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the reading and first public offering of the anthology. Somewhat delayed, but we're happy that it's finally out there for people to enjoy. Imagine we were in the little room off the children's library here, in person, before the pandemic hit. And we brought up some of the people who attended brought little snacks for us, and we had a lot of fun passing paper copies of our poems around amongst each other. And then after the pandemic hit, we morphed to the Zoom format. And we kept up the twice monthly, every Monday, first and third Monday night. And I counted 96 sessions all in all.
Wow, right.
So I've got almost 100 poems out of this experience from my own and others who attended as well. But we got to learn how to share our poems on the screens and amongst each other. And we had our own snacks on our own individual homes. But it allowed us to have people from England, California, my brother Chris, who's also in the anthology in North Carolina, and a number of other locations around the country, New York State as well. So we do have one poet, sadly passed away recently, Marla Sterling, and we'd love to have, I've asked Katie to read her 3 poems that were in the anthology as part of our experience here today. So that'll be a little bit later. And I'm just going to ask each poet to just give their own little fingernail or thumbnail biography as they step up, rather than having me try to piece together what I know about them, which may be a lot in some cases, but not so much in others. So let's start off with Ed Hearn, our first poet of the afternoon. Take it away. You got about, I don't know how many minutes, but do what you think. We're thinking about 5, roughly, something like that.
Don't say that to Ed, man.
I think a lot of you know me. I'm Ed Hearn. I write a lot. Something over 400 published poems, 6 poetry books, something like 700 fiction and poetry all together. And I can't make any money at it. So couple of things. One, I apologize for the phone interruption. It was my son and grandson, and I cut them off for you. Oh. Just so you know. Before I forget, I want to issue a heartfelt thanks to Bill, who took me in when I was a very new poet, very new, and he was kind and didn't really tell me what he thought about my poetry. And was supportive and had nice suggestions, and some of which I actually listened to. And I appreciate it, and I want you to know that. You were Not quite my virginal poetic experience, but close. And then before I get launched, one other thing. Some of you know I belong to some other poetry groups, including the Wilton Poetry Group. We are having an open mic and sort of a book launch next weekend, Saturday, 2 to 4 p.m. Free to attend. It's an open mic. If you want to come and read a poem or two, by all means. We'll be raffling off copies of this book. This is the only one I'm going to pimp today. This is by the Wilton Poetry Group, published by Fairfield Scribes, who I'm also a member of. Available, we're going to raffle it off, and we would love to see some of you or all of you there. We're going to be in the Reimer room, and it's going to have a mic like this, except we're going to be on a podium, so even
Rubeck room.
Rubeck room, yeah. And I don't want to take too much time. The first poem I'm going to read is, let me see if I can read it without my grannies. Being old seems to require more and more technical assistance. Okay, this is called Collectibles. It's in the book. Our cluttered house shelters relics dating from the 1800s, some familial, some acquired, all surviving only as outre decoration. The 6 volumes owned by my grandfather of the American Colonies and Revolution, densely unreadable and without much value. The Civil War plated iron cribbage board, rarely used or seen in a century and a half, with a storage space too small for today's cards. The lidded, low, curved-like mahogany stool sitting prominently in our dining room that none know conceals a chamber pot. And much too much more of the too old. All random barnacles on suburban Wales and giving evidence against owner eccentricity.
Amen.
Second one is the most recent, it's actually very recent, now I've come to think of it. It's called, I better do this. It's called Afternoon at the Beach. I, like many, am drawn to the shores of waters. Not to sunbathe, for sun on my bare skin triggers a sand flea twitching to haphazardly explore. And not to squint past surf for swimming things. One sealback looks unremarkably like another. And not to angle for fish I cannot readily eat. And not to season food and drink with sand. And not to gossip about those I already know. I shuffle on the edges of fluid and shifting, perched between cold, wet, and hot, dry, between immersion and desiccation, between sense-filled and somnolence, almost achieving primordial memories of hunter-gathering while starving, of fish and reptile-blooded survivals, of being only barely self-aware. That's it.
Amen. Woo! Do you have that list?
And I have no idea who's coming next.
I think it's good. I think we had Rob Zwilling. But I guess Rob,
Oh, no, I haven't seen him.
yeah, I don't think he's here now, so we'll skip to Katie
All right.
reading Marla's poems. Just go ahead.
Thanks, Bill.
I could just introduce briefly, Marla was such a wonderful participant. I think those who were attendees of the workshop remember her very well. A wide-ranging interest in all things natural, certainly, but also intensely personal, and was able to condense them into such wonderful lines that just touched us. And then her comments and her observations of our other poems that she had in those workshops were just very insightful and just rich with the kind of wealth of knowledge that comes from someone who has a wide-ranging education and just a marvelous love of words and communication. So here are the poems that Marla contributed to the anthology.
Thank you so much, Bill. I am honored to read the poems published here by Marla Sterling. The first one is called Shatterfall, and it has a really fascinating shape for those of you who have the book. A shatter fall of words rains down, here, sensible to its own, need to pronounce, maybe spoken, newly thought, undiagrammed parts, open to, share sounds, scenes, sources, fuchsia, gentian, cobalt. How can one not love to say? Beautiful. And clever. The next poem is called Elemental. Woods don't do smooth naturally. Note the bark of trees, furrowed and splintered, the leaf litter sprawled in shades of decay, mulched into smaller shards, but still there. Snaky roots slink above ground on the foot-pounded path, and paw and boot castings in slopped mud cement a cratered landscape after the feet have moved on. Smooth is claimed by beaches. Oceans take stubborn possession of even the roughest rocks. Not done till the surface is silken by tide and storm, and jingle shells and mussels are reduced to iridescent glory. And someday beyond to featureless shore sand, and the windless water at warm sundown shows what smooth really means. Though for my resting place, either will do. Oh my God. So beautiful.
Yeah, wow, that's a great one.
So beautiful. And the final poem, the third poem, is called The Garden. If you don't like weeding, don't have children. First, the complication of knowing noxious from benign, learning as you go that one contains the other, circumstances being otherwise. Watering one provokes the other's growth. And the endlessness. A moment's inattention yields unforeseen disaster. Husbandry parched, dreams flooded. But with patience, the flowering. Such inflorescences of bloom on single stalks or bouquets of difference bound together in love. Lay down your pruning shears and bask. Marla Sterling, everybody.
So beautiful. Those are the three. Beautiful.
Beautifully read, thank you. Our next poet is Wayne Lysabe.
Okay, a haiku for you. The robins of spring in the autumn of my life,
A joyous delight.
oh, that's it. Woo! So,
You like
in a Noah poetry group that one of Bill's groups back a few years back before COVID, we were given a prompt, and that prompt was feet. Prompt me not to write a poem that has to do with feet. Especially one that has to do with walking on the beach.
Okay.
To feel the sand swish through your toes down at the water's edge, and wonder where the child went that played upon that shore. Burden me not with such a task that stirs the memories so of times that once were timeless and summers free and slow.
Amen. Yes.
So yeah, I'm gonna read my next poem that's in a book, but I need a little bigger font. Cat on a porch. A cat on a porch on a rainy day, just sitting in a rocking chair, just passing time away. No deep thoughts, no big concerns are getting in his way, just a cat in a rocking chair, just passing time away. The weather might get better, the weather might get worse. So while my cat is chilling out, I thought I'd write some verse. Just sitting at my keyboard, just passing time away.
All right.
Okay, now for something a little heavier. This is, it's a 9/11 poem. Screams. It fades now after the years, the dust long settled along with most tears. A new generation has risen, with no memory save for news of buildings coming down. And now, these many years later, one must listen very hard. One needs hearing very keen, for the echoes are very faint, or screams, screams, screams. I apologize for that one. Okay, now to try to get out of that mood, I have something that's a medley of poems and a few lines of prose. And I think I have it memorized, and I've done it a few times lately, but I've always had my notes with me, so I'm a little nervous about that, but we'll see how that goes. This is a medley of love and marriage. There came a sadness to the blissful memories, a sadness that came on the wings of time. Contentment had floated on love's youth, and happiness was childlike and free. Once upon a time, we were awash in love. Bliss followed us, flowers bloomed in our path. The warmth of my love's smile did flow like the sun, and my soul was lost in her eyes. I will tell you this, she had a smile that lit up the whole room, brown eyes that could melt hearts from a block away. A body that movie stars would die for. And when she looked at you with that certain look, she was intoxicating. She was only poetry that I held long ago. Skin spun from silk and moonbeams and lips made from 1,000 summer breezes. She was just a dream, yet there she stood, solid and beckoning, a moment that made even angels pause and gods wish that they were men. Was it an angel that whispered in my ear that time, as a man, husband, lover, behold your lover? For she is the child that laughed and cried. She is the woman that will look back. She is all, she is more. Baby, child, mother, old woman, surviving life's past and facing life's future, unto death and eternity. Was it an angel that whispered this? Hold me close and tell me you remember when hot burned the fires and angels sang of our passions, and I was yours, and you were mine, and nothing else mattered. Hold me close and whisper, you have not forgotten. Dance. Dance with me, my love, and we shall live forever. Hold me close, my love, and we shall conquer time.
Woo!
Amen. Well done. Well done. Thank you. We do have another poet who's going to join us. Our next one will be Norwalk's famous, probably to many of you, Betty Smith.
Norwalk's famous. You gotta be kidding. Wait, I gotta put my camera.
It's true. It's true.
Norwalk's famous, huh? All right. I did not have everybody permission to take, so I just kept it quiet.
Oh, that's sweet.
Cindy, thanks for being here. You know, I have to call Cindy out first because when I started the writing group at the library, Cindy was like this Jamaican word we call groundation itself. You know, she was the ground in which we stood. And thank you, Cindy. I know you're retired now. We still believe you're here.
It's just a joy.
So, I'm Ned Smith. In one of my earlier life, I used to travel a lot. And I decided when Bill asked me to do some poems for the anthology, I decided to do a poem in a haiku first, because that was the simplest way to think. So I did this one called Hiking in the Woods. Hiking in the woods, nature's beauty surrounds me, peaceful and serene. Mountains ahead as they rise. Challenging terrain awaits. I push on with strength. Birds sing overhead. Their melodies fill the air. A symphony of nature. Rivers flow below. The sound of rushing water calms my restless soul. Sun shines above me, warming my weary body, guiding my journey. At the peak I stand, victorious, proud, and strong. Hiking is my love. Thank you. Traveling, my dad used to wonder, where on earth do you go? You know, how do you eat? You know, you come home, you sleep, you get up and you go. Traveling has been one of those things that I do naturally. So he used to call me a butterfly because I never stay one place too long. So anyway, this poem is called Traveling. Oh, how the heart sings when it takes to the road, with a yearning for wonders yet untold. Through valleys and mountains, my spirit is strolled. In search of new lands where my dreams are bestowed. The world unfolds in vistas unseen. From ancient ruins to cities of light, each step a dance of delight unseen. A culture mix in a magical flight. The taste of foreign spices on my tongue. The sound of laughter in a new tongue song. Moments of joy in the company of one. In these travels, my soul is deeply wrong. For in wandering far and wide, I discover the world and myself inside.
Very nice. Thank you, Letty.
Thanks, Natty.
Thank you, guys.
Oh. Our next
Well, you
poet.
want me to do another one? You're not bringing up someone else?
Yeah, we have others.
Oh, that's it. So bring them up. Don't let me feel like I should do another.
Okay, thanks for your generous offer. Melissa Slattery was one of our founding members of the workshop. I think. I can't remember when you joined, but you joined at some point. I've forgotten exactly when. But I was glad to have you aboard every time because you came up with some very unique writing. And I've enjoyed your intellectual curiosity, I would say, that shows up in her work. And you're also quite the artist. And her picture of an oyster shell is on the back cover of the anthology in honor of that talent of yours. Melissa Slattery. Take it away. Not sure what else to say.
Bring it down.
I feel kind of casual and at home. I feel kind of at home. And I was born in Norwalk, so But, yeah, so I think I should thank Bill for those 96 workshops. That's a lot. That's a lot. And all the people who came. I'm thinking of Marla Sterling, who really was a wonderful element, a wonderful energy in the group. And why can't I think of her name? This is so embarrassing. Bloom, Cindy Bloom, for supporting.
Lady.
Yeah, Cindy Bloom lady.
There you go.
This is old age talking. And Laurel, you kicked off a beautiful poet laureate, just sort of what to call it, term, I guess. But it was wonderful to watch how Norwalk's poetry scene kind of has grown. And all of you are part of it. So before I start, I know I'm like running out the clock, but sorry. I'll tell you now that what I'm doing a lot is offering meditation through a meditation nonprofit. Sometimes we use poetry, and sometimes we write poems as a result of meditating. So, if anybody is interested, the Norwalk Tree Alliance is sponsoring for the next 4 Sundays in a row a free urban forest bathing meditation at Fodor Farm. So, if you are interested, let me know, and I'll give you further information. So with that, I'll read what I was reading earlier today, these poems, and I thought, God, I don't even remember writing this. They're kind of weird. These are kind of weird poems. So,
Weird is good.
Yes.
That's right, absolutely.
So I'll begin with Boom. Boom. A line of wet shards tumbled through a random recession, the pull of revelations exposed. 3 pounds of washed flax will dry in less than a day. A cat shifts a whisker as light crosses the floor, lattice shapes climb up the distant wall. A stitch film waxes, the gnawing in my stomach. My eyes relax when the thing sought is forgotten. Relief, a slight buzz that indicates remains. A man collects worn brooms. Over time, he stacks them up until they clatter to the floor. A boom then solves the matter. A boom made by passing wire through the pierced handles creates one actual boom and balance. Then light like loose linen shrouds engoldens this room. So that's Boom, and this is the illustration. And I'll just say that that image is actually a sculpture by a wonderful artist whose name escapes me. Oh my God. Anyway, he inspired the poem. So the next poem is called Book Review, and I have to thank Bill for making an arrangement with the NCC student who actually designed this publication to use a particular font. And when the poem ends, you'll understand why I'm even telling you that. So, book review. He tells me the title means Star of the Sea and asks, did I not know this automatically as a former Catholic? And I say I might have figured it out eventually, but my concern is what is between the covers, and not so much the meaning of the title, Stella Maris. It's a place, it doesn't exist, it's someplace. The end comes eventually after a series of conversations that seem timeless, until suddenly the end nearing is simply stated, hold my hand. The next question is valid, all right, why? The answer reverberates because that's what people do when they are waiting for the end of something. And I wonder, then what do they do? Maybe they read the only thing left to read, a note about the typeface that has conveyed through its variegated serif bones the essence of the story. And then I wonder, who was it held Badani's hand? Who comforted the 18th century punch cutter of Parma? Who drew by hand new letters, invented typographical contrast, and calculated variant strokes, unleashing a stellar sea of words that finally reached me. So this poem is about a book called Stella Maris, and I thought it'd be appropriate for a library. So the last poem I'll read is called Cento for Spring. And does everybody know what a cento is?
Tell us, Melissa.
Okay. So a cento is actually a very old form of taking lines from various sources, and modern centos in poetry are poems constructed line by line from other poets' poems. And you, at the end, you give credit to the poems whose lines you've used. So, but it's an ancient form, and the Iliad is actually a cento. So if you know Greek poetry, the Iliad is a cento. So now you've learned something. So, cento for spring. Each day lies in the dark like a folded letter. It was as if all the pageantry had been for this, to make it to the season of reversals. Everywhere you turn, there's mystery and wonder. Please forgive me if I cry. The flux in the jar is softening. It's as if I am falling in love again. The brain has corridors surprising material place. Your own thoughts are all you hear, which is kind of true if you think about it. These lines are taken from Lisa Kaufman, Bernard Ferguson, James Tate, Sharon Olds, Emily Dickinson, and Brad Motlin. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Very good, Melissa.
Oh, thank you.
Bill Hayden, everybody.
All right, thank you all for your attentive listening ears, all of them. And I hope all of your ears are working well. I don't know whether I'm pushing the mic to have that little funny feedback in it, but it's. I thought I would share two poems that aren't in the anthology and one that is. And I'll do the first one, which I'll introduce by saying well, it's a dedication, so I guess that's the introduction of it. The title is African Taken Down, And it's dedicated to Jacob Blake, who got 7 shots in the back. And I need to put my spectacles on so I can read the words I was proposing to read. Resounds the airwaves, crash, loss of restraints. Every hurting one's launching his own pain. Brick on pane of glass gives no power to resurrect this one who has been taken. African taken down too many times. So now these newscasts whip, a backlash swells to drown the living worthiness of wounds so deeply cut the fabric may not mend. If ever reparations, healing force could garner generations' loyalty, impacting lives, that black, nay, gold, matter. More now that leaders' tweets would separate, divide and conquer. That's the chant that rings, a false gong clanging, hate power should win. Seems right, a little powerful there, sorry. I'm sort of sensitive to the evolution of the country's addressing our racial differences, not having a humanitarian approach to that issue. This one's called Exposition, and it's the longest one I think that I put into the Anthology. It took a special form that one of our workshop attendees, Glenn Vecchione, came up with, using the first word of a line by a poet and the last word of a line from a poem by a poet, and then using those first and last words throughout your poem. And you can you get to fill in the rest. So this is just called Exposition. Our taste buds swelled, lips joined lips by passion bound, and touching with closed eyes, replace our fingertips with lips. With each breath's tempo quickened in the warm umbra before archer's eclipse, the shadow play of yearning burst in joyous spasms deep in our love's wells, which treat each other's tenderness with the life force in ourselves. The child we each imagine giving the other could never be confused about its heritage, its origin, its birth in purity. As one, and one make one war, their issue soon to be warmed by the sun, we count our blessings hourly, 2 hearts that beat as one. Spirit conveyed through swollen eruption that splits itself in 2, one child emerges, healthy with our love and care it grew, till time brought sure maturity. Behold the Spirit's flame. Those qualities as parents, we could only hope they'd know the same. Touch of lips on lips, fire in the breast, comfort in the heart, the Spirit still. It's all, this poet is fond of having a structure of some sort to work with. It gives you, it sometimes gives you freedom, even though it has a structure. I don't know about any of you, others of you who may be artists in one form or another. Could be an artist with words, or it could be an artist in other forms. Sometimes we need a little encouragement to do our art. And there's even a 12-step program for Artists Anonymous that can't do art because they have so much of a self, need to be, we need to free themselves to do the work.
Are you kidding?
So, I got a pamphlet once at a coffee house from a fellow that was part of this. I'm not sure how their 12 steps read. It's a little complicated, but anyway. So I had an affirmation I had created for myself, a fairly simple one, but it was, I need a kind of a way of saying, what is it that I need to remind myself of? And then the affirmation is the following: I love pushing myself to create authentic works of art, poetry, and music. Simple enough for affirmation, but I decided to expand it. So I use the first word of each line is the next word of that affirmation. I desire freeing up energy and love bringing the best of me forward, pushing the boundaries of what's real for myself. From barely glimpsed in the sacred silence of inner consciousness to fully articulated intentional visions for the future in which I create, trusting the instinct to coordinate, orchestrate, curate, and make meaning in authentic choices of form, content, and the pure pleasure to express in works, pieces, refrains, choruses, chants, spells, rhythms, and a kaleidoscopic outpouring of unbridled virtuosity generously shared with the world through art. May it be ever playful. Poetry, may its rhyme be real as it intends to heal, and the soul-swelling, foot-stomping, praise-birthing music from the most humble chirp to the fortissimo magnificence that joys in love. It's been great playing with words, and I'm going to continue to do so as long as I'm breathing, I suppose. And I hope to meet you again on one of the other many poet laureate inspired events and gatherings that will be happening as time goes on in town and around this area of Connecticut. Grateful for the time I had a chance to serve you, and glad that we're working toward even greater appreciation and understanding of poetry as it evolves as a form of our humanity.